Hi everyone. So I want to take a time today to talk about VOT or voice onset time. To begin, what is VOT? VOT is one of the variables that is often used in phonetics and phonology, and it deals with plosive stops. So plosive stops are those, for example, like the P or the B, the T or the D, or the G and the K in English, the P, B, T, D, G, K sounds. And VOT is usually defined as the time between the consonant burst and the voicing onset, in this case of the vowel. So, what is defined as the consonant burst is that of the, for example, in the word time, the T sound, the T, T. So, that would be counted as the consonant burst. And the voicing onset would be when we start saying I in time. So, the time lapse between the T and the I in time is noted as the VOT or the voice onset time. The reason why VOT is very important in linguistics is because it helps us distinguish consonants with the same place of articulation. So consonants with the same place of articulation, especially in this case of the plosive stops, are for example the P and the B, where they are only contrastive in whether they're voiced or not. In the same manner, the T and the D and the G and the K are also in need of this distinction, which is why we use VOT. There are three types of VOT: the unaspirated, the aspirated, and the voiced. The unaspirated is also sometimes called the tenuis, and the aspirated, the positive, with a positive VOT, and the voiced with a negative VOT. What is categorized as a negative VOT is when the start of the voicing occurs before the release closure. If it occurs after the release closure, it is counted as a positive VOT. And if it's almost the same, it has a VOT of 0. I will now show you some examples to further illustrate this point. So let's look at the word team in English. So I've highlighted in red the release closure, which is again the start of the T sound, and the voicing onset, which is in yellow, and that would be where the vowel sound starts. So everything towards the right of the voicing onset, the yellow dot there, the area you see with a lot of, noise in the spectrogram, that is the E and the A and the M, the vowel section. And that everything from that point is counted as the voicing onset. And then everything before that is the VOT, the voice onset time. As you can see, team in English has a relatively large voice onset time, which if we compare it, for example, to another word like dime, again, the same thing, the release closure is highlighted in red, the VOT in blue, and the voicing onset in yellow. We see that the VOT is much shorter, relatively speaking, compared to team, as we can see here. This is because in English, team, or whatever a word starts with a T, it is aspirated. So this has a positive VOT value. Dime, on the other hand, has almost the same VOT value because the release closure and the voicing onset is really close together. So we would categorize this as almost a VOT 0, or but it's still a positive integer, but it's just much less significant compared that to time. On the other hand, in Spanish, for example, there is a negative VOT, which is inexistent in English. An example, for example, is dedo, as we can see here. Compared to the other two, we see that the release closure and the voicing onset almost occupy the same point, whereas a VOT precedes that of the release closure and the voicing onset. Obviously, it should precede the voicing onset, but it also precedes the release closure. So in this case, we see that VOT depends on each language. Just all languages have different VOT boundaries. While they all have VOTs, for example, in Spanish, they don't have aspiration. And in English, there is no negative VOT. So the boundaries per language can differ, but each language has almost a same amount of VOT duration. So, in other words, all of the aspirated sounds in English will always have a positive VOT that is much longer than that of the voiced ones. Conversely, in Spanish, it has a much longer negative VOT value when it is a when it's a voiced plosive stop, but it will almost have a VOT of 0 when it is what the English considers to be a voiceless plosive. In other words, the D's in Spanish might be seen with a negative VOT, and they are seen with a negative VOT, as we can see with the example dedo, but in Spanish, for example, in English, for example, it will have a positive VOT value that is almost inexistent, as we can see with dime. However, in Spanish, words like dime would be what we think of as the T in English, such as this. I hope this has been helpful for you to understand what VOT values are. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you.